All right, I've mentioned this stuff before, but I'll say it again because it bears repeating. Nervous overthinking. I see a lot of messages from people, not just here, but in various social media circles that deal with, law of assumption, Neville Goddard, etc. And just the amount of hand wringing and, uh, slavishly going over details of, oh, did I do it right? Did I do it wrong? Did I do this too much or that too little? It reminds me of, I don't know, various characters I've seen in movies over the years. Like one of the most recent ones. This tonight, my daughter wanted me to put the Emoji Movie on. I'd love to have a little clip of the Emoji Movie here, but I don't want to run afoul of the copyright stuff with YouTube. Who knows what their limit is? So I'll just describe it for those of you who may not know. The Emoji Movie is an animated movie that deals with emojis, like the emojis on phones and computers, smileys and things like that. And it takes place inside a phone. It's like an emoji world. And so this emoji, he's meh, the meh character with the straight face. Nothing bothers meh. He basically, he's like a neurotic. And he overthinks everything, and he's prone to panic, fits of panic and anxiety. So he basically screws up. He's supposed to do the math face, and he does like a combination of all these different faces, and he malfunctions. And in the course of doing that, he panics and he tries to like escape or get out of the situation, and he makes it even worse. He holds on to this thing, and it basically wrecks the whole. It's almost like a TV set, almost like an old Hollywood Squares type setup that they have, where they scan the individual emojis when they're called upon by the user of the phone. So he makes a big mess. And that reminds me of a lot of people with this stuff. And even myself at times. I'm not excluding myself. I'm not standing up there like some high and mighty whatever. I've done it too. I'm not making fun of people. I'm just saying that it bears pointing out that, like I said in other videos, sometimes less is more, right? Sometimes less is more. You need to know when to let go of something. Sure. I mean, I'm not saying visualize it once only, okay? Neville Goddard's brother Victor visualized the store, the name over the building, many times before the 2.5 years, okay? Listen, 2.5 years went by before the thing actually happened. How many of you have the law of assumption stamina to wait 2.5 or more years for something to happen? I don't know about Victor Goddard, but I will say that a lot of people I observe don't have that kind of stamina. They will sink their manifestation through all kinds of anxiety, hand wringing, and just looking for signs and wondering if they did it wrong, and worry, hand wringing, all that kind of stuff. And I've seen other characters like this in movies. Some is like one is like Albert Brooks's character in Defending Your Life. That's a little older. But you see these characters in these movies, these neurotic characters that they sabotage themselves with their neuroticism and their anxiety, and not just leaving well enough alone sometimes and letting things happen naturally. They've got to push things along, prod it along, look for signs. It's not going fast enough. It's not going fast enough for me. I need it to go faster because wah, wah, like a crying baby. I want my thing now. I can't wait. Sometimes you have to wait. Not always, but sometimes you have to. You have to at least be willing to be patient sometimes. But the overthinking and the anxiety, you got to get that under control. You have to get that under control. because it's not going to do you any good. It's not going to do you any good to sit there and just be neurotic about this stuff. And I see it and I read it constantly online, which is why I'm inspired to say this right now. And like I said, I'm not saying that I'm immune. I've done enough of it myself. But after a while, you're like, well, that doesn't work. And then you look around and you see other people and they keep doing it and doing it. Or maybe they're new at it and they're doing it and doing it. So you try to warn them and say, hey, that's not going to work. Didn't work for me and everybody else I know. So you may not want to take that course of action. Relax, meditate, let it come and flow naturally. I mean, what are you going to do? As Neville Goddard says, you can't, no amount of, all right, I paused myself for a second so I could look this up. Now, this applies to other people, but it can easily apply to things, manifestations where Neville Goddard says, instead of trying to change others through argument and force, let me but ascend in consciousness to a higher level, and I will automatically change others by changing self. There is no one to change but self. That self is simply your awareness. Your consciousness and the world in which it lives is determined by the concept you hold of self. It is to consciousness that we must turn as to the only reality. For there is no clear conception of the origin of phenomena except the consciousness. That consciousness is all, and all is consciousness. You need no helper to bring what you seek. Do not for 1 second believe that I am advocating escape from reality when I ask you to simply assume that you are now the man or lady that you want to be. Um, he says, also, if you and I could feel what it would be like were we now that which we want to be and live in this mental atmosphere as though it were real, then in a way we do not know, our assumption would harden into fact. This is all we need to do in order to ascend to the level where our assumption is already an objective, concrete reality. So basically, don't be neurotic and nervous about it. Persist in it, but don't persist in a way that you're going to question it, look for signs. Don't look for signs. I mean, this is absurd. I see people where every little thing, they're looking for signs and every little thing that happens, and they're going off into the weeds, that's not what Neville Goddard talks about. So that's really my point in this whole thing. Stop the nervous overthinking, hand wringing, looking for signs, questioning everything, like questioning your own, did I do it right? Did I do it enough? I mean, just if you need to visualize something multiple times, by all means, do it multiple times. Do it every night for a month or 2 months or 3 months until you feel like you can't imagine it anymore, and then drop it. You know, there's probably not, the only time it becomes too much is if you never eventually drop it and let it happen, right? If you never drop that seed, ever, then of course it can't grow. Speaking like symbolically, of course. So that's really it. That's kind of what I wanted to convey here. And not to touch too much on my last video, but I talked about the keeping up with the Joneses thing, and some guy comes in or somebody says, well, that's not what the law of assumption is. Well, duh, no kidding. I know it's not that. That's what I was saying. Keeping up with the Joneses is not the law of assumption. Of course it's not. That was my point. And as far as the university thing, if you're a student, be a student. That's the role you're playing. Play that role. Be a student and study. Using the law for these shallow shortcuts of, I'm going to go to some prestigious university. I don't want to pick up a book or crack open a book and actually learn anything. I just want to get grades without learning. This is a very immature, shallow attempt at using the law. And in my opinion, it's going to backfire on you if that's what you want to use it for. So that was my point with that video, just to straighten everybody out with that. So anyway, I hope all of this is appreciated by at least some. Please like and subscribe. Like my videos because it helps the algorithm show it to more people. All right? I appreciate it. Appreciate you. Thank you very much. And I'll see you next time.